the third entry in Disney's animated Diary of a Wimpy Kid franchise, Cabin Fever. Yes, they really did skip all the way to book 6 instead of adapting The Last Straw, Dog Days, or The Ugly Truth. Why? I guess they really wanted another Christmas movie to put on Disney+, and all they had was that Dashing Through the Snow with Ludacris. And that Disney Channel movie that I don't even remember what it's called. So, I should briefly talk about the first two. I have reviewed both of them. The first one I despised. I hated almost everything about it. I hated how they treated the story. I hated the animation. I hated the pacing. I hated everything except the voice acting, which was fine. And again, I like when movies make changes, but the changes the movie made didn't make any sense. And, because again, the change either has to be a lateral, it can be better, or even if it's just a lateral move, if it's not necessarily better or worse, that's fine. But the changes seem to actively damage the story. This isn't a Percy Jackson or Maze Runner scenario, where you can debate endlessly whether or not the changes are better or worse, but they didn't damage the story, whether you think they're not as good as the book or not. And then there's the second movie, Roderick Rules, which was almost feature-length. I should mention the first movie was about 50 minutes once you take out the credits. And then the second one was about an hour 10 once you take out the credits, roughly. And it was better, but it still wasn't good. It had a lot of issues, and it wasn't nearly as good, and much like the first one, it wasn't nearly as good as its live-action counterpart. So this one, I can't really compare to the original third movie because it's a 100% completely different movie. And I mean that in every sense of the word, because the original third movie was over summer vacation, and this one's a Christmas movie. So I can't really compare the two, but if I had to say, Dog Days is obviously better because I think that one's probably the best out of all the Wimpy Kid movies. And side note, I will be ranking all of these in a few days, all 7 of them, including the live-action ones, so yeah, be on the lookout for that. But now we have Diary of a Wimpy Kid Christmas, Cabin Fever. And if you don't believe me what I said about them really wanting to shove a Christmas movie onto Disney+, there you go, adding Christmas to the title pretty much gave that away. But is it any good? Title aside, and skipping a lot of books for no reason aside, is it any good? Hang on, I'm gonna move that. It made my hand disappear when I was like that. I don't know if you noticed that, but there was something in the line of the camera. So, is this any good? Well, I will say this, it's not nearly as bad as the first movie. Because the first movie, again, was terrible in every way. This one isn't bad. Honestly, it's probably the best Disney movie we've gotten this year that isn't part of the Marvel Universe, because it's still not as good as Ant-Man or Guardians. But, hey, I will say it's better than the Marvels, which, again, I didn't hate. I just thought was fine. It was fine. So, technically, this is the best Disney movie of the year. Yay. Although, I'm saying that, and I don't think any Disney movie that came out this year got higher than an F unless it was part of the MCU. So at least it's not that bad. Sounds like there's something outside my door. I don't know what that was. But, okay. Let's get back on track then. So, first things first, I have read the book. I've read the first 9 books. I read all the way up to The Long Haul. And I remember most of the book. This movie isn't accurate to the book, which, like I said, I don't care. I actually prefer when movie adaptations make changes. But do the changes work with the story? And again, this isn't even feature length. This movie's probably an hour flat once you take out the credits, so this technically isn't even a feature film. But I do like some of the changes they made. Some of them I don't, and some I just think are just whatever. Like, for example, the dad is here instead of being out on a business trip. That's fine, I don't care. But the problem is like, much like the first two, they had him just heavily fixate on one thing throughout the entire movie. Like, the second movie, he seemed dead set on trying to get the boys in trouble for something while they were gone. And here, it's actually kind of the same thing. He's trying, because a bunch of their supplies has been disappearing, and he's, of course, blaming the kids for it, especially Greg and Roderick. However, if you've read the book, you know, spoilers, I guess, Manny is the one that's been hoarding all of this stuff. And it's a little different from the book, which is fine. I thought it was fine. It was a decent reference, too. But again, they just made him hyper fixated on evening out the supplies and everything. And it's like, I get it, but he's almost running it like a drill sergeant, almost. It's weird as hell. And the father doesn't get to have much personality beyond that. So it's just kind of hard to watch. Greg and Rowley have new voice actors for this, and I honestly think they do pretty well with their roles. I'm not sure why they recast. I know you'll probably say that the other kids were too old, but are they? Each movie was made pretty much back to back to back, so I don't think they'd be too much older. But the new kids they got are pretty good. I actually think the new guy actually fits Greg's voice a little bit more, or at least just personally. Roderick's voice actor is the same, and he's still fine. He's still pretty good, even though, again, I think his voice is just a little too high-pitched for Roderick, or maybe I'm just too used to, what's-his-face from the live, Devin Bostic, and maybe I'm just too used to his voice. But he does pretty well. His vocal inflections are intact, and his voice isn't as high-pitched as it was in the first movie, so it's a little less distracting. The mom is still here. She's fine. She's just the mother trying to keep her kids on the right side of the tracks. That's fine. Manny's a lot less annoying here, and I do like the line where Roderick has to move into Greg's room when the basement floods, which is again another reference to the novel. And he has to move into Greg's room. He says, "I'm not moving into Manny's room. There's something off about that kid." And it's like, that is heavily, that I'm assuming that's a reference to that huge theory or not really a theory, the big thing that Manny is a psychopath. If you've seen there are a shit ton of videos about it, and yeah, I've seen videos on it. That's pretty funny, but that's a pretty neat reference to it. And the main plot of this movie is a little different. So the basic plot, while Greg and Rowley are making a snowman, the base of it rolls away and ends up breaking a snowplow. Well, it pins the snowplow, and while the person's trying to get it out, the actual plow part breaks off the truck. So, and then Greg and Rowley have to run and hide. They hide the stuff that they were spotted wearing. They hide it in a donation bin. And then before they can get it out, a huge snowstorm pretty much locks everybody inside, and he has to survive the next few days with trying to keep Roderick from figuring out that it was him who broke the snowplow, and just having to survive cabin fever, which is basically a term for his family's driving him nuts. Although it seems like the ones who are more off the wagon in this little situation are the mother and father. They seem at their wits' end by the end, and Greg and Roderick seem perfectly fine. So, but yeah, that's the basic plot. It's nothing too complicated. It's honestly not that interesting of a plot. I feel like they could have done more with this idea. And I'm kind of split on the ending. So what happens in the end, very similar to the book. Okay, so what happens in the book is that he essentially left a suggestion for a donation for himself, which is douchey as hell, but that's Greg Heffley, so that's what you expect. And he digs out the snow around the church trying to find it, because essentially he's like, oh, it's just a bunch of cash, and leave it like under a recycling bin or whatever it was. And he digs out the snow trying to find it. Of course, it's not there, obviously, but not the point. But in this movie, him and Rowley are going back to the donation bin to get the clothes that they put in there, because they assumed it was a dumpster, but it was not. It was a donation bin. And he and Rowley end up digging her out. Side note, I know it's played for a joke, but it's really dumb that they end up digging around the thing, even though it's clearly in this one spot, yet they're too stupid to notice until they've cleaned out the entire lot. And even Greg makes a comment of, oh, it's always in the last place you look. Yeah, maybe if it's off in the far corner or something, not dead in the middle where you're shoveling snow, you dumbass. But whatever, and then the snowplow lady, whose snowplow he broke, shows up because she was supposed to plow it a few days ago with her plow, but she showed up now to basically dig it out by hand, but that's exactly what they did. And in the book, it was made out in a news article, or in a newspaper article, that Greg had dug it out to help open the church, because the church was essentially used as a soup kitchen that night, which Greg obviously did not know and did not do it for selfless reasons, as we already got into. And here he says himself that basically a way to get out of the reason why he was here. He's like, "Oh, I shoveled it out so that the police could get to the toy bin." And then at the end of the movie, he talks to this person because this lady and her son kind of rely on those donations as well. He ends up giving up his video game set that he got for Christmas from his mother as a donation for her and her son specifically. And I like that, but then they kind of ditch it by saying, "Oh, there's a new video game system every year, so I'm still in the clear for next year." It's like, I kind of like how they got around still making Greg a douchebag, but I also don't like how they still got around Greg being a douchebag. What I liked about the original 3 movies is that he had an arc in every movie. He became a better person in each movie. One was the big conflict was between him and his friend Rowley. He learned how to become a better friend. In the second one, he learned how to become a better brother, and so did Roderick. And in the third film, him and his dad were finally able to see eye to eye. Alright, there's always an arc for Greg, which was thrown out in the 4th movie, but the 4th movie was straight up garbage anyway, so who cares? But that's what I liked about those 3, is that they didn't have to keep Greg a static asshole throughout the entire time. They had him grow throughout the franchise. This franchise seems to be hell-bent on not doing that because they want to adapt as many of these books as possible. And if you have him learn a lesson and actually become a better person with each one, eventually you're just going to have him relapse into being an asshole very jarringly, and then have him learn the same lesson over again. And I'm honestly not sure which idea is worse. Having him be a static asshole throughout the entire thing, or learn to be a better person and then relapse every movie. Either way, it's a bad idea, and they needed to plan this out and be like a 3 or 4 film franchise at most. They don't need to adapt every single goddamn book, especially since there's like 18 of these fuckers now. They do not need to adapt all these. And Kenny's still shitting them out one after the other. They're coming out just as fast as these movies are, so if he seriously expects to adapt every single one of them, that means they're probably going to be adapting these for the next 25 years, and I don't want that. Because these movies, at their best, they're just an hour-long distraction for your kids. At worst, they are insufferable like the first movie was. But I'd say if you really like the Diary of a Wimpy Kid books, and I used to like these in middle school and everything, I don't watch them now, or I don't read them anymore. I still own a few of them, and every once in a while, just for nostalgia purposes, I'll page through one, but I haven't read, like I said, I haven't read one past The Long Haul, which came out, a decade ago, and let's see, I would have been around 10 years ago? Almost 11. So, yeah, around the time middle school is when I read these, and then around the time I hit high school, I kind of got over them. And because in middle school, I started getting into to bigger books like Harry Potter, Percy Jackson, The Lorien Legacies, those kind of books and everything. So, yeah, if you really like this franchise, you'll probably like this. If you liked the first 2 movies for some reason, you'll like this one fine. If you absolutely hated the first one and the second one, you probably won't get much out of this either. Again, it's probably the best one so far. They seem to be getting better with each one. But again, that's not really a high bar to clear when you're facing crap and mediocre. So being better than mediocre and crap is not exactly a high bar to clear, but nevertheless, it's a perfectly fine movie. I probably won't watch this again. Maybe I'll watch it next Christmas. My brother will probably want to watch it again. He liked it. My brother's 10 years old. He liked it, so your kids will probably like this fine. And if you're an adult, it won't ruin your day. Let's put it that way. It won't ruin your day, but it won't do much for you. So I'm going to give Diary of a Wimpy Kid Christmas Cabin Fever a C. So, thank you all so much for watching. Let me know what you think of this and Disney's animated Diary of a Wimpy Kid trilogy at this point. And what's your favorite Diary of a Wimpy Kid movie, I guess? Let me know down in the comments below, and I will see you all next time. Bye.